I'm going to actually record this part so that you guys have a reference, and that also half the class that didn't show up today can hopefully take the time to read through this. So I'm going to start back again in the advertising part. So we're going to take a look at some other stuff. I'm going to get through as much as I can in here and show you a couple of things about this. So I'm going to pass over layouts right here first. I'm going to come back to this. I think I've got a bigger, better way to actually, it's just this same presentation but bigger. But just realize that, again, this is in the system, the Session 5 resources. All of this information is in here for you guys to look at. Again, these are past examples just to make you familiar and help you understand and get a grip on what we're really trying to get going here. So this first thing under here is this company profile resources. So if you click on this, this was actually created back in the day before there really was an internet. These are still, some of these are still actually viable. You can actually look through these and just sort of see. So again, the reason you would use these resources is that you're actually going to places that you're trying to get a profile of the company. So again, what is really behind Neiman Marcus? Who started it? What's their philosophy? Who are they trying to attract? What's their target market? Do they hold, any, I mean, if you take like Hobby Lobby, I don't know if you guys know about Hobby Lobby, but it's the people who own Hobby Lobby are evangelical Christian. And everything that they do in that company is driven by that. So, for instance, they refuse to take out a health policy that covers abortion for their employees, that kind of stuff. And that drives a lot of their business. Well, if you are trying to reach them, to sell or to pitch something to them, it would help you a lot to know that, wouldn't you think? Right? So that's the part of why this company profile part matters. Today it's been made a whole lot easier. Most of this research you just do online. You just Google this and say, I want to know the story of Neiman Marcus, or I want to know the story of Saks, or what happened, or what is Saks's philosophy? What's their, what's their branding statement? All of that kind of stuff. A lot of this, again, you can do, but these things are not worthless to be aware of. So again, it's just a reminder that that's what you need to do. This customer demographics checklist, this is exactly what you saw earlier in this. If you're not going to build the whole story, this is a place for you to start. So the person that you are trying to reach, where are they in all of this? Are they in the north only? Or are they in the south only? These would be two completely different groups of people, right? Or the east or the west. Are they all over the United States? Are they worldwide? I mean, all of that matters. All of these to help, again, really develop the target that you're sort of like going after, and help to develop that story and how you're going to market to these people. So this would be, and again, this is going to be something that we look for, that you've really spent the time to figure all of this stuff out. So that's a checklist. Just be aware of that. This is a Vogue Media Buy Kit. So I told you that the SRDS, it was the Standard Rate and Data Service. That's what the SRDS stands for. They no longer print the catalog. It used to be they would print a whole book that had listed all of this information, and you could get it in the library here. So you just would go to the library and look this stuff up. You can't do that anymore. And this is actually a couple years old, but 2 years ago, the subscription rate for this was $1,700. So I'm not asking you to actually subscribe to the SRDS. Don't do that. But you'll take a look right here. This is the Vogue Media Kit. And I clicked on this one, and this is the Media Kit, and I can't remember what year this is for, but this is typically what one looks like. And this is based on what the SRDS used to actually do. So they talk a lot about the magazine. So the verified subscribers, there's 1,600,000, a million plus. But how many single copy issues do they send out? So again, this would be people who are buying just single copies. These are people who are on subscription. They get all 12. This is the people that you would add to that. So the total circulation is these two combined. However, there's also an audience. The typical audience, what you look at in these things is that usually a single magazine is actually looked at by more than one person. So they will then base, it's sort of like how many eyeballs really hit this issue. So all of this, the bigger this number is, the more you can charge for your pages because you're reaching more people. What is the what is the largest circulating magazine in the United States? Say what? I've got a Sports Illustrated. Anybody else? Well, I've got Vogue. I've got another. Anybody else? AARP. Like by millions. Like Vogue has got a circulation of 1 million. It's been pretty consistent around there. AARP has got a circulation of like 22 million. Vogue is like 30 or 40 down on the list. Sports Illustrated is pretty much in the same boat with them. Yeah, so anyway, just throw that out there. But again, median age, who are they really trying to attract? This is the breakdown of female to, again, male to female here. It's almost a 9-to-1. Education level, all of this matters. This is all, again, based on the information that you've used to develop who this is going to do. So what happens down here, this is important. I've just looked up the most recent version of their media kit, and it doesn't break it down here, but you should be aware of this part right here. So in their rates, in their breakdown, what this is that this is for a single page, and what this X's up here are how many times are you going to buy this single page. So $196,000 plus is, again, this rate is from 2016. So 9 years ago. This would be if you're just going to buy a single page and that's it. You're going to buy one time and that's it. However, if you buy 3 of these pages, it's not that you get 3 pages for $190,000. It's every single page is $190,000. So the reality of it is that this total figure for this is going to be close to $600,000. Does that make sense, everyone? So, and then again, if you're doing 6 pages, they cut you a little bit more of a break, and then 9 pages a little bit more, and then 12. So you can use this to figure it out. But remember, this is 12 pages at $174,000. So this is $1.5 million total at the end of the day. You can buy partial pages. So this is how they break them down. 2/3 of a page will be $149,000 and blah, 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 blah. Covers are prioritized. So here you'll see a second cover. So when they talk about covers, nobody gets the cover of Vogue magazine, but this is what you get. So you can look right here. You won't see this on the video, but you'll see it with me. So let's say this is the cover of Vogue magazine right here. This on the inside here is the second cover. You can buy that, and that's the price for it, $235,000. The covers for 3 and 4 are the back of the book. So you can buy the very back of the book. Let's just say that's the back of the book. This inside cover would be the 3rd cover, and then this back cover right here is the 4th cover. All of those are for sale, but you can see they're all done at a premium. Ironically, the back cover, because it actually is an exterior cover, is the most expensive of the covers that you can buy. So anyway, this is the base rate on here. Then they will give breaks to people who are doing retail stuff. So if you are like a Prada as a designer, you can actually get this for a retail rate because it's a store rate, that sort of thing. As you continue going down through here, they'll talk about all sorts of things here. The things that other matter to us in all of this is going to be, these are the insert rates. So remember, we talked about inserts. So again, if you just have, you're buying space in Vogue and you give them the images and they run it, what ends up happening is that it just gets it put in with everything else that's being printed in Vogue. And so when they do color correction or cropping or any of that kind of stuff, cut lines, all that kind of stuff, they control all of that. And so you don't really get to have any control of that other than you give them the work and you hope for the best. But if you want control of yours, you can actually have an independent printer print out an insert for you. They have to print out, 1,200,000 of them, however many copies of Vogue there are, and they take those and they actually insert them into the magazine. However, you have got to pay Vogue on top of the printing charge that your insert costs you to actually then stick it into Vogue. So for Vogue, if you do a 2-page insert, it's $150,000. If you do a 4-page insert, it's $266,000. So I mean, this is not cheap to do, but nonetheless. So that's all the rates that are happening down here. Then you get mass retail rates. All of this stuff you can actually go through. The stuff that's going to matter to you guys the most are going to be the single page rates. So they give breaks to special department stores and all of that. They'll give certain breaks on all of that kind of stuff. But then finally, they'll do ad specs down here. The thing that matters to you is, and the thing that we're going to expect to see is, these are the actual sizes of the spreads. These are now cut sizes of the spreads. So a full page is an 8 1/4 by 11 1/8. So when you actually show your presentation at the end, your single pages should be actually matching this size. So what we have had a lot of people do for their presentations is that they will actually print out a 6-page spread and they will actually glue it inside a real copy of Vogue, and that's what they present to us. And it's incredibly effective. So again, if you think about how would I present this to Neiman Marcus and show them how I would run this in Vogue, you would do it exactly like this. You do basically a mock-up of the ad, and then you stick it in a real copy of Vogue, and it is impressive. Does that all make sense here? Okay, so that's what this is all about. It'll give you the exact figures for all of that kind of stuff. So blah, 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 blah. We're going to go down here. I was hoping they had release dates in all of this. I may have passed over them in the very beginning. Wow. See, if all else goes wrong, you can just become a lawyer and do this shit every day of your life. I know, right? This is the editorial calendar. Yeah, so this is where their closing dates are. This matters. So if you are actually interested in doing the March issue right here, the closing date for that, this is the date it goes on sale, is in February, but the closing date for this is the 30th of December. So this would be, again, when you would have to have your stuff done. So in thinking about your media byline and which season you're going to be working in, all that kind of stuff, all of this is determined by because again, the magazine has to be laid out, it's got to be printed, it's got to be sent to a distributor, it's then got to actually go out onto the newsstand. That all takes an enormous amount of lead time, and that's what this is all about right here. So, are there questions about any of this? All right, so I decided just really quickly to see. So this is one from 2016 again. So it was 197,000 a page. So I just did a quick search for Vogue, Media Kit. And lo and behold, they have a current one. So I'm clicking on this. You go through this whole divining part here. That's their little blurb they're selling. This is their Media Kit right here. Download. Go down through this part. They still talk about this again, giving you their stats about, we're this, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. This is their closing dates for fall issue. Again, these would be the closing dates for all of this. When April closes, when May, all of the closing dates. This is their general rate card, $217,305.20 a page. This is the second, third, and fourth cover cost. So it's now, again, $217,000. It's actually raised by over 10% from what it was in 2016. But so you can find current rates for a lot of this stuff, or you can use the rates that I've actually showed you on this. So for this, I have given you, this is the rates for Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, Elle, Glamour, GQ. This is all US, Cosmopolitan, Vanity Fair, and W, and then Esquire. If you're going to do men's stuff, this would be important to actually consider in this. This is the SRD. So you can go to their website and take a look at it. Again, do not buy the subscription for this unless you, again, if you got your sugars, go for it. Okay, are there questions about any of this? Are we good? So again, we've gone through the company profile, the customer demographics profile. We've talked about the advertising content in magazines, the SRD rate, or different versions of this. We've looked at the worksheet here. I asked you to bring, there was an assignment for you to bring scrapbook images today. We're not going to get to that, but that's okay. They still, ultimately at the end of this semester, you need to have the images that you were assigned to bring every week, or every week that you were assigned to bring them, has to be in a presentation format that will actually be graded and is 10% of your grade. So even though we might not be able to get to this, I'm going to try to get to them whenever we can, but it's like we can't do. I want to really show you more fashion photographers right now, but time is ticking, and I've got to get through all of this information because this is going to impact your assignment. Okie dokie. So I'm going to show you thumbnail sketches right here. We've already seen a couple of them. They can be really basic. It can be something just as simple as this, again. But what matters about this is that you are thinking about where does type go? How do you shoot a figure based on where the type goes? So if the type is all going to be on the right-hand side of the page, you would not want to have this figure here face the other direction. You would not want this figure looking at the gutter and all the copy. So you would not shoot them facing in this direction. You would shoot them facing in that direction. Now, you can flip images as long as there's no text on it. So for instance, if there was a logo or a text label on this outfit or whatever it was, you would, if you had shot it the wrong direction, you would have to then cut that thing out, flip the figure, and then flip the logo back so that the logo was the right way, and then put it back onto the figure. You don't want to get into doing that kind of shit, trust me. So again, having this thought out before, how the pictures are that you shoot should be matters. Does that make sense, everyone? Okay, so it's just the idea of thinking about this stuff. Again, my suggestion to you is that you use, again, if you can't see through, my suggestion is always take a piece of paper, lay it on top of a layout that already exists in a magazine, and simply trace it out. It's just the easiest way to do it. If you can't see through it, tear the piece of paper, tear the page out of the magazine, put your piece of paper on top of it, and stick it up on a window during daylight, and you will get light through it, and you will be able to actually see it. So however you want to go about doing that, you can do it that way. There's actually a light box right back here, which is unbelievable. You guys probably have never seen a light box, have you? I know, that sounds so shitty, right? But why would you, right? But at any rate, there's one sitting right back there. It's just a box that lights up from underneath. It's plexiglass. So you could, again, lay your magazine layout on top of that, put your piece of paper on top of it, light shines through it, you can do it. You can just trace it. We don't care how good it looks. That's not the point here. It's just that you're thinking about doing your layout. You're thinking about making an image for this space. So it's not only making an image for a specific client, it's making an image for a specific person that you want that client to actually get, but it's also thinking about the magazine that it's going to go in, how much space do you have in that magazine, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that is a thumbnail sketch. The Fonts Essential group, this is something that I've put together for you guys. Do not come in here with a font and a layout for an advertisement that's got text on it that's made out of cemetery gravestones or Valentine hearts or big flower petals. You know, all the weird font shit out there that, like, don't use that shit. Nobody uses this shit. I'm just telling you right now, this is the list of the 30 most important fonts that people will use. So in just thinking about this, I'm going to throw a couple out here for you right now. Bodini right here is the one that's used mostly by Bazaar. And in the second group right here, Dido is the one that Vogue uses. We're talking about really their mastheads and a lot of their logo stuff in there. There's all sorts of sources that you can go to find out what font should be used. So for instance, if you're trying to advertise in, let's advertise in GQ. We'll see if we can find one. So again, just do a search for it for fonts used in GQ. And it'll get you, here are the fonts that GQ uses: Tilting Gothic, Miller, Continua, whatever. All of these are right here. You guys have unlimited font, not unlimited, but you have the entire Adobe collection of fonts available to you for free. Just in, if you go into Photoshop, I think I've closed my Photoshop, and I'll open it really quickly. So anyway, you can find all of this stuff, is I guess all I'm trying to say. So I'm going to see if they have this font, SAOL. I've never heard of it. So again, up here, if you click on your text version right here, the text tool, let me get a file open, or it's not going to give me the text tool. And click on the text tool and drag it out. If you click on this drop-down menu right here, you can actually do more fonts, and this will take you to, you can actually search for stuff, and it'll also take you out to Adobe's website, and you can download, again, their font collection is extensive. So I'm going to see if they have that. Was it SAOL? SAOL. Kick back to that. Anyway, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but realize that you have access to an enormous collection of fonts and can find something that's likely very close to it. So I'm going to close up that. I'm going to close up this. I'm going to take a quick look at the slideshow here. We'll see, get this up bigger and just start to go through this really quickly. So this is an example of what I get. So this is actually a real, you can see, there's my name right there. This was actually for Carson Perry Scott. So it'll actually list basically a rough idea. So it was a light gray canvas sweep with a plexi floor. That's what this was actually going to be on. This was the layout that I got, and you can see they needed space for copy up here. They also needed space for logo down here, and then they needed space for description right here. Then I can tell it's a single page spread here, so this gives me an idea. This has got a further description in it, and it's basically styling notes are in here. So, and this was what they were advertising. It was an ad for Crocs. Again, this was the layout that they were using. This is actually what I shot to try to get to that layout. I didn't really think this was great, but I went ahead and shot it for them. And then this is also a version that I shot as well for them, and ultimately this is what they ended up using. So you can see, but again, I had space on the bottom to run the logo, the Boston Store logo, ghosted over this part of the image. There was another blurb area for stuff in here. So again, it's just the way you're thinking about doing this stuff. These are the things that I actually get to sort of tell me what it is they want. So this is the attaches. Amy's creative on this. Check it out if you have any questions, blah, 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 blah. So what this is that this is coming from the art director. These are the paint colors that they wanted to use. They wanted a white corner set in this as well. They wanted a floor of white plexi. They wanted props of rectangles, blah, 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 blah. There was a chair, specific chair that's attached in here that they wanted. They wanted Gerber daisies, and they wanted fabric butterflies for all of this. And then they'll talk about the lighting and blah, 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 blah. And anyway, so this is the girl they ended up picking for this ad campaign. This was the first shot that we actually did for this, and that's actually all I've got. So anyway, you can sort of see that this is all thought out ahead of time. This is not stuff that's just, let's go in the studio and make great pictures, kind of like you guys shot for your first project. Make sense? There's a lot more structure to this. Okay. Let me get out of that. We're almost done, guys. Almost. So the last thing I want to get to right now is advertising and advertising layouts and how you need to think about them. So hang on one second. We're in week 5. Yeah, hang on one second. Where are you? Okay, so in advertising, and again, if you look at the advertising in the resources part, you'll actually see this as well. There are 5 major components that exist in every successful ad. This was something that was developed by David Ogilvy of Ogilvy Mather. Ogilvy Mather is one of the largest advertising agencies here in Chicago, but this thing went worldwide. This is how pretty much everybody approaches this right now. David Ogilvy was a guy who started in the mail department literally and rose up to own the company. So what he did was he was the first person to come along and say, how do people really interact with a page? Physically interact with a page. So you guys, how do you, I'm going to hold this paper up here. How do you interact with this piece of paper? Where do you start? Top left, right? And then how do you get through it? And where did you end up at the end? You go left to right, top to bottom, and you end up. So you start up here and you end up down here. So what Ogilvy said was, well, If that's the case, then this top right-hand corner is the single most important thing that we have. That's the single most important space. That's where you go to first. If you lose somebody at this stage of the game, it does not matter what you have in the rest of this piece of paper. It's meaningless. You lost them because you didn't have what was really important up here at the top. So what he did was he divided a page into 5 separate areas. And in those 5 separate areas, what he has is the graphic, the headline, the caption, the copy, and the contact. Those are the 5 areas of what we're going to actually talk about right here. So in this case right here, and you can do them in different ways. It just depends on what's the most important. So again, we would start here with this is the graphic, the single most important part. And you put this area, you put the most important part up in this area right in here. Then as you follow this down, in his case here, the second most important thing actually is the caption. So I can't read this caption, but I'm going to show you an ad that I can read it, and I will tell you why that this is actually was second most important. This is the headline, which is the third most important for him. This is the body of the copy, which is the fourth most important for him, and then this is the contact information. And contact information is the name of the company, the 1-800 number, the www website. I mean, it's that. So what you need to think about, what is the single most important thing ads are designed to do? Anyone? To do what?
Get your attention.
To get your attention is part of it. Getting your attention, though, is not going to bring the money in. It is to motivate you to do something. And so the reason you think about that, the purpose of an ad is to get you to go to the website, go to the store, call the 1-800 number, and buy something. That's the point, right? If you don't give them the contact information, your ad fails. Because you get them, I'm going to go through all of this, I'm going to read it all, I'm going to go through all this really long copy that I would never read. But nonetheless, I'm going to do all of that, and yes, I want to buy this shampoo. And then you don't tell me where the fuck I can buy it? You failed. So in this ad, over here, same ad, different design. Single most important thing is the headline. How well do you know your customer? Second is the graphic. Third is the caption. Fourth is the body. Fifth is the contact information. And then this one, this is actually where, this is now being driven by page layout. This is a vertical image, so this becomes more difficult to actually do. In this case, the image or the graphic and the headline are actually sharing sort of equal space. The graphic is still more important, but then you've got the headline is next most important, caption underneath it, and then finally body and contact information. So this basic formula is how you need to think about laying out your ads, because you are going to turn these things into ads. The images that you are going to be making are going to be ads. So if we go to the next one right here, this is a perfect example. So in thinking about this, what's the most important thing in this image? Well, what's the image about? It's about makeup, right? Specifically eyeshadows, right? So look where they put this giant ass eyeshadow. Now imagine if this image had been flipped the other way. If it had been flipped the other way, what they could have done is this eye would actually be over here and Chanel could be here. So if they felt like, so this is going to be, this is the headline, is Chanel. So Chanel can actually be over here if that was more important. In this case, they kind of share equal space, but this is a brilliant way of actually thinking about doing this. Oh, by the way, I meant to tell you this first here. So what you think about, and the way Ogilvy actually describes this is that you interact with the page in the form of a Z. So you need to think about a Z. If you overlaid a gigantic Z on this piece of paper, this is how you would lay it out in order of importance. This part right here where the Z starts is the most important as you work your way across, down through less important, across to least important. So that is exactly what is happening in this ad right here. It's starting here, most important across. As you work your way down, this would actually be the caption part here, over to contact information. This is a little bonus piece that's sitting over here. So it's not like, but again, this is still the beauty part of it. The thing they're trying to sell you is, even though this is what you buy, this is what they're trying to sell you. Make sense? Can anybody tell me who this is? Look at this situation here. In this case, the caption is actually the most important part. So the caption is no longer underneath the image, followed by, the caption is the single most important part. And I can read you what this says. This says, Sofia Coppola photographed by Juergen Teller. Anybody who knows anything about celebrity, that is the single most important part about this, because none of you knew who the fuck this was. But when I said Sofia Coppola, who in this room has ever heard of her? Right? So again, they are clever enough to realize that the most important part of this ad is actually the caption, and that's what they start with, followed by the graphic, followed by the headline, followed by the contact information. Is this making sense? Another thing that I point out here that's really critical for you guys to be thinking about in your imagery is page space, simplicity of design. All of these things actually matter in here when you're actually trying to do your ads here. So there was a mention about advertorial. This is an example of an advertorial, and what an advertorial is designed to do is it's advertising designed to look like editorial. So they do all of these tricks to make it appear to be an editorial. This is actually an ad for, it's a campaign. There's more than one page of this. It's for Emmanuel Ungaro. It's, again, Paris Designer Couture. So this is a part of his collection. But instead of treating this as an ad like we did with the Chanel ad, they've treated this as an advertorial. So you can see it looks like a headline thing, a very sort of editorial kind of photograph, not a typical advertising thing. But then down here, they not only, they keep it really bare and spare, they give a photo credit to the guy who's actually shooting this. So they're treating this, they're putting it in the same context as you would see it if this was an editorial in a magazine. Does that make sense to you, what's going on? And then it's followed by this. There's pages in here that have no text on them at all, even though this is an ad. This has now been bought and paid for. This is an ad. It was shot as an ad. It was done through an ad agency, but they are trying to disguise this as an editorial. There's figures that they have about how long you spend looking at an editorial compared to an advertisement, and it's like on the order of 500 times longer that you will look at an editorial than you will as an advertisement. So if I can trick you into believing that this is an editorial, then I'm going to get you to stare at my work 500 times longer than I would if I actually have it a blatant ad. So anyway, that's the trick behind advertorials, and you can see it continues on here throughout the whole thing. And that was the whole piece. So this is a thing about best editorials of all time, ad campaigns of all time. You guys can look at that later on your own. So last thing that I want to show you really quickly, and then we're going to pick retailers and go into groups. I want to make sure this is actually on our website here. Yeah. Advertising layouts. So this is a PDF of basically what I was just talking about here. So in here, it'll talk really quickly about, but you should read through this because this will help you understand what you're looking for in your ad and, again, possible layout strategies for it and that kind of stuff. So what do they look at first? Again, visual, caption, headline, copy, and the signature part in order. So again, in thinking about your ads, great ads, again, the visual matters. I think personally, as a photographer, the single most important part. The best ones use large, interesting graphics. I mean, that's just what this is all about. Small graphics are distracting and don't have enough interest to draw the reader into it. So Cam, that could actually inform part of your question about, do I do a whole bunch of little pictures right here? This would argue that you probably should not. Caption, again, when it explains the visual, really important part here. The ad, again, I don't want to read through all of this right now because you guys can read through all of this, but it's really, a lot of it is common sense, but it's important that you keep this in mind. So again, in your headline, you want to avoid the cute and fluffy shit, right? You don't want to use anything that'll minimize the response. You want to use hot words, at least, announcing, the secret of, new, all of that. You guys are exposed to that, but there is a reason. There's so much research behind this. What is an effective ad? What is going to compel you to act? The copy. So this is the copy. Again, in most of the work that we do, there's a minimal amount of copy. We're not trying to sell legal services, that kind of stuff. But this will help you in doing all of this. You want to keep this as brief as you can possibly keep this. This is critical right here. At least 10 to 12 point size for your type in here. Again, in advertorials here, this is what would be in the signature of your ad: a logo, advertising name, address, phone number, website, design principles. I really want you to read through this. So only 1 or 2 fonts in your ads. Capitals, all caps are very difficult for people to read. So why would this all caps? Where would this actually come into play? Where would you want to use all caps? So a lot of advertorials are actually, the editorial people require that they print advertisement at the very top of the page. Have you guys ever seen that?
Yeah, I was looking.
Right? So at the very top of the page, you have to put advertisement up there because they don't want you to mistake that it's an editorial in their magazine. So a lot of people who do this kind of stuff, they say, well, okay, all caps are very hard to read, so they actually do that advertisement in all caps. Also, if you are using black type on a white background, is much easier to read than the reverse. White type on a black background is very difficult to read, so they also do that advertisement as white type on a black background, all in an effort to try to get you to have problems reading that it is an advertisement, and again, being fooled into believing that this is an advertorial. So, guys, I'm telling you right now, billions and billions of dollars are spent in thinking about this. And you, as people who are shooting content for this, you need to be aware of it. You don't need to be a great layout artist, but you need to be aware of the shit that actually matters and how your images are going to be shoehorned into all of this sort of container. Make sense? So again, I'm going to go down here. White space, incredibly important. Balance. One of the great tricks about an ad is if you take an ad and you lay it out like this on a book, and you feel like it's balanced. Balance does not necessarily mean symmetry. Balance means balance. If you turn this upside down, it should still be balanced. If you invert it, it should still be balanced. It should not matter how that actually happens. That is the key to what a good balanced ad will actually be. Type in here, again, you can talk about this. We've already said, again, the tone of all of this all has to do with the market that you're trying to go after. The call to action, that is the purpose of an ad. Give your readers a clear path to take. If you get them all set up and they're ready to go for this, and then you don't give them an outlet to do it, you don't give them the contact information, you have failed. Mistakes to avoid, clutter. Can't get over that. Just don't keep it. Unclear message. What the fuck are you trying to do? Errors. This is the biggest thing that you guys will struggle with here. It's the one that comes up in this class over and over and over. Proofread. How many times have you gotten an email that instead of the word Y-O-U-R, it's just the word Y-O-U? So instead of saying, I love your work, it's saying, I love you work. You sound like an idiot. Your ad will be even more laughed at and really is an idiot. You won't be able to use it in your portfolio. Read your shit aloud, have somebody else read your ad, and again, lack of contact information. We've already talked about the Z layout here. Again, this is just a reiteration of what I've already talked about you guys. You can look at this stuff. This is got those same pictures in it. So again, I don't need to go through this part again, but I want you guys to realize that this is all here for you to actually go through and think about before you actually design your ads. But more importantly, you need to think about this before you start shooting the pictures, because in theory you will have worked out your layouts before you actually do those pictures. Are we good on this part? Any questions about this part? Okay, I know I have killed you today, and I apologize for that. But I'm going to stop the recording right now. I am going to put together the list of retailers really quickly, and you guys get to help me. I know.